well, I don't really think this is going to work. I don't. And I just try it again. What I really wanted to get into here was I'd written the medical malpractice book in Atlanta, 77 to 78, and was trying to get it published. It was about Larry McDonald, congressman, physician at Piedmont Hospital. And I had written about mind control murders, and one of them was Warren and Rosanna Matthews, pathologists, at his hospital there. Um, they knew too much. They knew how deaths were made to appear of natural cause, like using mind control and hypnosis. You can create an illness or you can cure it. So in other words, that was a long time ago when they were killed. They were killed in the early 70s. So now they look at the technology. First of all, that says you don't need there's cures already. So all that's happened to the money that's been appropriated, the funds, the grants given for research to colleges, and on, all it's done is create more equipment to take care of certain things. There's been no cures. Well, the joke is, out of the Tesla files in the early 70s, is they have the cure. They always have had. So they can create an illness. Now then, that I don't lose you, I thought all the hell that was being done to me and my children was because of my doing the book. In '83, I found out when I ran in the campaign to replace Larry McDonald, I began finding out my real identity, that I was stolen out of Buckingham Palace at age 2 in 1941, born in '39. I'm going to switch real quick and show you my uncle, George VI, illegal monarch, his daughter, Elizabeth, and that brood, who really work for the American government. They're frauds. They're traitors. They are illegal monarchs. He helped kidnap me, George VI, along with Joseph Kennedy, and I'm going to show you his granddaughter, who is now an ambassador to Japan. Obama had her confirmed and everything. This is the New World Order you're talking about. The Bilderbergers, Rothschilds that helped kidnap me, Roosevelt, Kennedy. So I'm going to show you the picture here. And the picture of the double that married Wallace Simpson. My father was legally wed to Claudia Ruth O'Keefe, American Catholic, which she gave up her religion for the Church of England. But she was a commoner, so that didn't sit well with part of the Windsors. But the whole thing is that it was really the New World Order and my uncle that joined forces, call them the Freemasons Trilateral Commission. It's the Rockefellers and all of that bunch of crooks. And some of them are my family. Here's my dad and the double. So they just made up lies, and my uncle helped perpetrate it and took down his own brother and kidnapped his niece, Victoria II, me, the real monarch. Let me see if I'm still filming here. Okay, so while I'm at Laurelwood, so much was being done to my sons, Mark and Scott, till my ex-husband came back to live with us. Now, we went up. I had the letter from the feds, U.S. Attorney's Office, and I had been down to the FBI's office downtown many times, and or several times. Now then, my husband or ex-husband went with me to the office when he moved back in, kind of like to protect us, because sugar was being put in my son's, the lifters in his car. There was all kinds of hell going on that terrified you. There were spiders that I'd never seen in my life that were turned loose in our apartment, and you couldn't step on the stairs going down or upstairs. They were all over the place. I remember after my ex-husband came back, he was sitting on the sofa with my son Mark, and I walked through the front door, and there's one of these big spiders behind his head, and I wanted to just die. These are my children. um, anyway, there's all kinds of harassment, scare tactics. So I, my ex-husband went with me up there to the office and told her that I had signed a lease when I moved in with my deposit, and my signature. So it's by way of letting her know that he's there. His name was never put on the lease. So through that time when so much happened, I couldn't get a job anymore. I'd done the book, was trying to get it sold, and um, I decided there's so much was happening that I would go out and stay with his sister Laura Childers Klein out in Abilene. She now lives near Austin. But anyway, she told me to come out there and she would try to help me get a job. And if I got a job, I was going to move the children out. First, I had to get a job and get away from it all, I thought. Well, in first of March, um, I um, got in the car and made sure that Laura knew I was coming. It was okay. I left, and when I got out there, and I'm kept penniless almost, I get out there to Mesquite, just outside Dallas. I call her, and suddenly she says, "You can't come. Don't come here." So I have to turn around and go back, and I'm leaving out. There's hell that goes on in terrorism that you can't put. You'd have to write another book. So I got back, and by the way, I had a guy that my husband, or ex-husband, had introduced me to. His name was Marshall Carnwright. He owned a detective agency, and the local police moonlighted for him. And he wasn't a bad guy as far as I know, but the point being, it turned out I was at his home when I became homeless and back there in '82. Um, I looked up at a photo on the wall, a big one, and I looked at his wife and I said, "This says that he's Marshall Carnwright of the Oklahoma Territory." And she says, "Well, that's right. He's retired now. He's no longer a marshal." So in other words, what his first name may be Marshall, but he's a U.S. Marshal. So anyway, there is an input of the Marshal Service back then. Um, so now then, I'm there I'm coming back to Atlanta, to Marietta, to my apartment. Well, when I get back, I don't have an apartment. And one of my sons, Scott, said, "Mama, I think you should know that Dad put you on his medical insurance. Something's wrong, Mom." He tried to tell me. But so much had been done to me at that point and to the children. I was being terrorized that my kids were going to die. So a bunch of stuff happened, and I simply went to who I thought was a friend, Lois Pearson. She had gone to word processing school with me. And by the way, I'd already had all this, except computers were new, but I couldn't get jobs anymore, and I thought it was because of the book and doctors. I didn't know about my real identity and being kidnapped. So I'd met her there. Her family worked in the medical profession. So what do I say? I was isolated anyway. I went to her home that night, and I got filled full of antifreeze uh, in the neck, just missed the nape, and was handed a drink with her kids watching at supper that night. And told her drink it. It was a new drink. Well, I didn't know what antifreeze looked like. She said it was like a Gatorade. So it was thick and green, and I drank some. And they tried to make me drink more, and I wouldn't. So when I woke up the next morning, it was a living hell to have your brain baked, and you can't hand your brain out and say, "Hey, look what they've done to me." It was hell. I knew that I'd been gotten. I went to the emergency room at West Texas Ferry, and the doctor there was head of Parkwood, and that's where Victor Gonzalez, who was at Parkland when Kennedy was brought in, he was at Redstone Arsenal Army Hospital when I was there, getting my brain baked by a Jew doctor and his co-workers who were Jews, and I mean baked with shock after shock. In other words, they used the mental health to torture me. I'm chemical sensitive, nothing to do with mental illness, but that's what they did to me. And Gonzalez ends up, my husband and I moved back to Atlanta. He has moved to Atlanta, and my husband takes me there in about 67, and 7 years of sheer hell went on. But anyway, he's one of the doctors that I talk about. I don't remember when I got to the emergency room the name of the doctor. He was head of Parkwood. Now, this is a private mental health facility that has really grown. I just Googled it, and it is really so, wow. Nobody's paid for the crimes. They've just gotten more wealthy. So I went there, and you can't understand the hell that I'm in. And I understand now that I should have gone into a coma, kidneys gone, and my ex-husband could have put me on, wouldn't even let me be on life support, and I would have died. And I'm sure he had a insurance policy. I didn't expect it from him, even though I knew what he was like. I didn't expect him to try to kill me. So I went there to see if I could get something to counteract whatever had been given me. Well, when I got there, the psychiatrist is at the emergency room, so they set it up. They framed me. When I got there, no tox was done, which was the reason I went. Instead, I was illegally locked up, and that's a hospital. That's not where they're supposed to be able to do that. And first of all, after I made it back and worked for the district attorney in Huntsville, I tried to get something done about it. And I had the papers on me where months later, well, not months later, weeks later, I'd had the tox screen done. And there was still antifreeze in me. So anyway, the comeback was that the West Paces Ferry said, we don't have any doctor here. He was here illegally on our staff. In other words, he wasn't on their staff, but he was there, and he had me locked up, and he had a Dr. Paul Beecham come in. I couldn't leave, although I should have been. I shouldn't have been put there. So I'm going to put this on the following tape. It's going to be Journal 2.